Being at home gave us plenty of time to work on our own craft and see what works, what doesn't, or just chill, boot up your PC or console and play games. I play a lot of games, like literally, even before the stay-at-home thing started, I've always been playing games along with collecting model kits. Also, just like almost everyone, I tried streaming and it was fun, but didn't last long since it started becoming less fun and more of a chore. Regardless, it was a fun experience. 2021 became an opportunity to try a lot more games than last year, and rather than post an album showing a list of noteworthy games, why not make it into a video? What is good, guys? This is Amor94 and this is my personal game of the year for 2021. First of all, this is my own list, so feel free to disagree or share your own opinion, but be civil on the comment section if you want to share yours. Second, this may be my 2021 list, but it's unique based on the games I played during that year, so no matter how old the game is, it still counted. Lastly, I made my own categories to show more games in this video and share my thoughts on it. So without further ado, here we go. With all the games I've played last year, there will be some games that have passed through my radar and never tried it during release. It can also be because of bad reception and just flat out not a priority in my list of games to play. Vampire is one of those unique games where it's a small-scale open-world RPG and your choices have actual consequences. It's a fun take on being either a full-on vampire, where you can literally kill every reported citizen in a village, or be a good doctor and see which ending you will get. A Plague Tale: Innocence is a unique game where it handles a bit of horror, stealth, and puzzle solving all together with a rich narrative where Amicia finds the answer to Hugo's curse or disease during the Hundred Years' War in 1348 France. Another game set in France is Assassin's Creed Unity, where you play as Arno Dorian, an errand boy turned into assassin, caught up between Brotherhood duties and his own agenda for revenge. I would love to talk about how this game became a gateway to play older Assassin's Creed games, but that should be in a separate video. Obviously, if I tried a lot of games and liked, there will always be games that I didn't like as well and either drop completely or have no choice. Final Fantasy Type 0 is the former. This game has potential given that it's a Final Fantasy game, but it has three things that made me drop this. The camera is really nauseating, epic boss fights are pseudo-scripted, where you lose but the story goes on anyway, and finally the grind for 14 characters in your party is too much. Tribes of Midgard is on the latter side, where it's actually fun but kinda boring due to being a multiplayer game. I can play this game solo and matchmake with others, but I feel this can be more fun while playing with your friends. The Warriors is a gang brawler game set in a fictitious New York City street gang era, and it was my favorite game on the PS2. Surprised it wasn't Kingdom Hearts 2 or Devil May Cry 3? Me too. For anyone who likes these kinds of games, this is a must try. Sure, it's gotten old and some mechanics are dated, but it won't hinder your experience. Like I said earlier, Assassin's Creed Unity became my gateway to play older Assassin's Creed games. Right after I played Unity, I tried Rogue and that game was great as well, but the Ezio collection completely blew my mind. Similar to the Warriors, the games are dated but are still playable provided that you can easily adjust to its mechanics and won't completely hinder your experience. Scarlet Nexus is an RPG set in both the near future and an alternate reality where human has developed technology and formed a society based on the substances found in human brains. If that didn't fry your brain, I don't know what will. Anyway, I wish I had bought this game since I'm a big fan of JRPGs. It just so happens that I prefer medieval or older timeline settings in games such as Tales of Arise. Either way, I'm set to play this game soon, and a good friend of mine will let me borrow her copy of the game and will be able to try it soon. I've talked about two games that I've tried and liked, and they also fall under this category as well. If I had to choose from Vampire and A Plague Tale: Innocence, I would recommend the latter more. It's a kind of game where it has a compelling story, a fun yet challenging gameplay, and a short but worth it experience. The game that blew me away is also the game that has the best narrative in my opinion. The entire experience, from watching the short film Lineage, to playing AC2, to Brotherhood, to Revelations, and finally watching Embers, this game made me feel things. But since this game is a collection, if I have to choose one, Brotherhood has the best narrative, if not the best installment in the Ezio trilogy. Nier Replicant version 1.22474487139 . I know, I said it once and will never say it again. Nier Replicant only has two things that I really liked: the combat and the music. That's it. It is by no means a bad game, but it is an actual chore to play if you're interested in the side content, especially the other endings. What made me push through as much content as possible in my first and only playthrough is the music. Seriously, go listen to this game's music and tell me if it won't make you vibe to its melancholic genre. Another game that is noteworthy is Assassin's Creed Rogue's version of Ezio's Family. It may be one of the best renditions out there, but since AC Rogue's theme is the only contender, Nier Replicant's musical score takes this cake. I've been playing Realm Royale and Genshin Impact even before, but 2021 has been the year where I've played the most out of both. These are two entirely different games, with Genshin Impact being an open-world gacha RPG, while Realm Royale is a battle royale shooter. It is by no surprise that Genshin Impact is my personal best free-to-play game for 2021, given that I spent most of my streaming days with this game. Both games mentioned earlier also fall under this category, but I would like to add Godfall. Sure, I also spent many hours in this game. Not as much as Genshin Impact nor Realm Royale, but Godfall takes this win. This is by no means that the game has no flaws. The story, in my opinion, is the weakest point and can actually survive without it. Still, it's worth playing if you're into loot and grind loop kind of games. A Way Out and It Takes Two are both published by the same developer. Yep, this guy hyped the games and I have mad respect for him given that he's a meme at this point. I played both games with my girlfriend and we both had a great experience on both, but in terms of mechanics, genre mixes, and story flow, It Takes Two deserves this best two-player co-op spot. Tales of Arise is the 17th installment in the Tales of franchise. Hopefully I'm right on that. This game, being an RPG, has a lot of add-on DLCs such as cosmetics, equipment, and item boost, which is typical. What's surprising is that they have a Sword Art Online collaboration. I am by no means a fan of the anime series, but it's nice to have collaborations like this. The DLC is short but worth getting given that it can be played as much as you want. If you like fun, challenging boss fights and have a copy of Tales of Arise, make sure to check out this DLC. When it comes to most action-packed games I've played, the games that come to mind are Tomb Raider, Tales of Arise, and Uncharted Lost Legacy. All mentioned have their own take of being action-packed and I love all of it. Still, I would pick Uncharted Lost Legacy given that it has the most impact from my perspective, being grounded and intense from start to finish with mixes of fun, stealth, and platforming. Usually with open world games, I always have this feeling where there should be enough rich content to every nook and cranny and not cluttered with useless collectibles that doesn't make any contribution to the story or progression, similar to Ubisoft games being released lately. Ironically, Assassin's Creed Unity is obviously made by Ubisoft, but the world is not extremely large. Sure, it also has stupid collectibles, but the world is alive, filled with citizens, crime is active where you can interact with it, and also scaling every building with free running has never been so fun. For me, a good open world is where you can be immersed, dive your hours into just exploring, and rarely really use fast travel, or not at all. As a big RPG fan, I'm quite surprised with how Final Fantasy XV blew my mind for its combat and the new add-ons that came with the Royal Edition. I have played this game way back 2017 and it was a different experience given that I am a lot more exposed with open world RPGs now. Unfortunately, there was a bigger surprise and it is Tales of Arise. This is my first Tales of installment and there were zero regrets in getting this game. This might be the best RPG I have ever played in a long while and dethroned Dragon's Dogma as the king. Tales of Arise is a tight combat system, a party mechanic where you can swap on the fly, a rich world filled with boss fights, and a mind-blowing story to fill the whole formula. Obviously, it takes the best RPG spot for 2021. Falling into favorite game this year, the Ezio Collection is a great contender given that it has great mechanics that complements the flow of gameplay and story building, but I'm gonna have to give this award again to Tales of Arise given that it has the same qualities but better. Sure, it has the advantage of being a newer game, but I'm a bigger RPG fan than a stealth game fan. Before we talk about my game of the year 2021, if it's not obvious yet, let's talk about my most anticipated games for 2022 first. I've been a big Spider-Man fan ever since I was a kid, so playing Marvel's Spider-Man as well as the spin-off Miles Morales was a great treat. It is by no surprise that I'm so excited to play the sequel and see how they go with the gameplay and story. Finally, Venom! Venom will be in the game. Another game that I'm excited for is God of War Ragnarok. I'm excited to see how the story unfolds, where Atreus discovers his roots, and how Kratos deals with this new adventure in being an outsider god and being a dad of boy. I have quite high expectations for this game given that God of War 2018 has been the best game I've played so far out of everything, and that's a big deal. Finally, here we are with my personal game of the year. To make it simple, I only have 3 contenders: Assassin's Creed the Ezio Collection, Tales of Arise, and It Takes Two. All of these games are great for their own strengths, It can be the gameplay, the story, the level of immersion, and how invested a player can be, or even the music alone. For me, it should be a mix of all categories and see which one handled the best. Yes, of course, it's Tales of Arise. I feel I have invested worthy hours into this game more than any other games. Take note of the word worthy since I'm sure I've played more hours into Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but there are so many hours spent there just roaming around and going to places that aren't worth going, such as useless collectibles and the like. Another big factor of being a game of the year is for the game to respect my time by making every action to be worth my while, an equivalent exchange of reward with time. And Tales of Arise did that perfectly for me. Just as mentioned earlier, this game has a rich RPG element, an extremely fun combat and party mechanic, and again, a great story. I just want to emphasize that since this is one of the best games I've played out of everything. So that is it guys, thank you for sticking on with me until the end of the video. I made sure to list all 25 games I have played during 2021 and checked out all factors before deciding which game fits the category I provided. I hope you like my list and hope to hear your personal list, especially if you play many games like me. Be sure to stick with me and subscribe to see more content like this where I ramble and share my thoughts and opinion with some games, model kits, or any kind of hobby I'm into. Alright, see you. Peace!